Hey everybody, this is your boy Chris from 2L Tech. Today we are going to continue our series with enterprising your home. This particular video is going to focus on hardening your Ubuntu server. I have the Ubuntu server on. This is the same system that we loaded Ubuntu server on from our last video. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start to harden the system and prevent attacks and prevent unauthorized access to the system. Okay, so a couple of things that I just want to mention. The way this is going to work is we're going to start by updating the system, installing the software packages that we need. We're going to then go and secure the shared memory. Once we finish securing the shared memory, we're going to make sure we configure PAM. And PAM is basically configuring how you're going to set up your passwords and how long your passwords are going to stay in your system before you have to change them. We're also going to install, and I'm going to show you some commands to run and configure a rkhunter. And rkhunter is just an application to prevent rootkits on your system and to monitor for any rootkits on your system. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to protect our systems from buffer underruns and network attacks. After that, we're going to prevent IP spoofing. We're going to then go use fail to ban and deny hosts to prevent unauthorized access and suspicious hosts. And then we're going to configure our firewall. And finally, we are going to harden our SSH session. Now, I just want to keep in mind, this is not the end all be all of hardening your systems. There are other applications and there are other methods to help harden your systems. These are just the basic methods that we're going to use to go ahead and start off the process. In our next video, we're going to get into more of the utilities and applications that you're going to use and how to use them within it. Applications such as Tiger and PSAD, which is an intrusion detection device. So we're going to get into those in our next video. But for right now, what I really want to focus on is help you harden your system and just get it up and running. So this is going to be the baseline for all the other systems that we're going to implement in this series. So our DNS, DHCP, and our NTP server, all that stuff is going to be based on this exact configuration. So assume for all other videos that this is the baseline model for all intents and purposes, the gold image. All right, so let's go ahead and log in. Boom, we're in. We're gonna go ahead and do an update. So we're gonna do sudo app update, and we're gonna do sudo app upgrade -y. Basically, all this is it's asking the application program, which is the program that pulls applications, looks for its dependencies and installs. And we're asking that application to go out and update its database with any new packages. And then we're also asking to do in the same command. We're also going to ask it to upgrade any new packages that are out there based on the update of the database from the previous command. And then we're going to type in -y to say yes. And basically all this is it's the system is going to ask you, are you really sure you want to update all these packages? And the answer is yes. And so I won't have to hear the computer's mouth later on. I'm telling it yes now. All right. So it's going to ask for the password. You just type in your admin password, and it's going to go look out for stuff. Right. So luckily for you, I already did this, so we don't have to look at a screen full of updates. So because I really didn't want to do that anyway and show you guys. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to install the packages that we need in order to configure and harden the system. Okay, so we're going to do sudo app. Now we're going to say install, right? And we're going to install a couple of packages. So we're going to install libpam -pw quality. And all this is, it's an application that we're going to run to enable us to make specific passwords or enforce specific passwords, right? So we're going to install rkhunter. We're going to install fail to ban, deny hosts, open SSH server, UFW, and UFW is really the firewall, the Ubuntu firewall, right? And now Nano. Some of you are going to say, why the hell are you installing Nano? You should be doing everything in VI. Look, this is a baseline. I'm installing this because Nano is pretty easy to use, and for people that are not familiar with Ubuntu and not familiar with Linux in general and how to edit applications within the command line, this is a pretty easy and simple application to use to do the editing of your apps. So I'm going to tap in -y. Why? Because it's going to ask you, do you really want to install these applications? And the answer is yes. So it's going to go ahead and it's going to get all these dependencies and install all the dependencies. This shouldn't take that long. For this is the postfix and this is the email. I'm going to put no configuration because right now we're not going to send this stuff over to an ICMP at this point. This is just real basic, so I just want to, I'm not going to configure it at this point. We can configure it later on when we get into more advanced topics and we're going to utilize that piece, but for right now we're not going to do that. Just a couple key points that I just want to make. There are a lot of different applications that you're going to use. Our next video is going to focus on some of the tools that you can use to look at and monitor and report on what's going on with the system. At that point in time, we can start looking at how those reports come out and how you view those reports and how you can make them readable to you or manageable to you. So for right now, what we just want to do is just bring these systems up online as best we can, as hardened as we can. So once that's done, there is a lot of editing that we're going to do, text file editing that we're going to do. Linux is a file-based system. In other words, all the configurations are based on files. So editing is going to be the predominant way that you're going to get your configurations done. So one of the first things that we're going to do is we're going to secure our shared memory. So in order to do that, we're going to have to edit a file. Sudo nano-c. -c just says we're going to count. We're going to be able to give you a count of the line that we're on. So etc fs tab, right? Once we get in there, at the bottom you'll see read line 9, read 11 lines. So you're going to come down and it'll tell you which line you're on. Okay, so this one we're going to add TMP, which is the temp file system, right? Which is pretty much in memory. What's in memory? The mount point is /run/shm, and then the type is going to be TMP FS, temp file system, and then the options are going to be default, no execute, right, and no SUID. And then the last options are the dump and pass, so 0 and 0. Okay. Now, all this really means is we are going to secure the shared memory space so that attacks won't happen to running services, and that's really important. You don't want someone to mess around with your running services. So what we're doing right here is we're preventing that. You're gonna do Control X to exit, and then Y to save, and then Enter to save it as the file name that you just created, and then that's it. We're done. So we're going to move on to configuring PAM, and that's pretty easy. Again, this is another file, so we're going to do sudo nano. You guys are going to get really sick of editing files, but it's all right. PAMD, and then common passwords. Now, I'm not going to do a lot of the stuff here. All I'm trying to do is just kind of explain what it is that you're going to be looking at. So just kind of bear in mind. All right. We're going to go ahead and go into that. Boom, we're in. Now you're going to come down and see password requisite, and then you see retries. So here, basically, you're going to make the changes that you need in order to make a stronger a stronger password policy is the best way that I can explain it. Okay, so here we go. Basically, what we can do here is set the minimum length. So the minimum length that we would like a password to be, and we can set it as min length min equals, and then you can set it to 10, 15, whatever it is that you have a password policy for. In addition, what you can also do is add different parameters in order to make sure that those parameters are met at a very minimum. Okay, so for example, di fork or fock, well, whatever. Now you can set this to whatever number. What this option means is the number of characters in the new password that you're going to have cannot be represented from the old one. In other words, if you have a password, and let's say your password is password, your next password cannot be password, because you can only have 3 of those characters that were in the last password and nothing more. So let's say you put word in there somewhere with word, then you're passing the three maximum letters, so it won't allow you to change that. So be cognizant of this. You have also options like decredit, and decredit is the number of digits you can have in the password. L credit is the lowercase. O credit is the optional characters that you can have, like the @ the exclamation point, etc. And then the L credit is the lowercase. So U credit is the uppercase, O credit is the lowercase, D credit is the digits, and O credit is the optional characters. And you set them all here. Now, I'm not going to set them here right now because this is just a test machine, but right after pam quality.so, you're going to add all the rest of the options. So play with this as you see fit. If you're in an enterprise environment and you have to have specific rules for password creation, this is exactly where you would create those. So we're going to move on. The next thing we're going to focus on is the length of time that you can have your password. So in order to do that, we're going to edit another file, sudo etc um, login dot def, the defs, right? So once we're in here, we're going to come down, I think about 100 and something, line 100 and 160, I think it is. And here it is. Password aging controls. So what these are is basically a mechanism to control how long you can keep a password. This is very good to kind of, if you're using passwords, to kind of make sure that people are changing their passwords on a frequent basis. This is just forcing that mechanism to go through. So the password maximum days is basically how long you can use this password for. So you can set this for forever, which is 99999. You can set it for 5 days, a week, 3 weeks, whatever. This is done, the variable is done in days. So obviously if you want to have it for 4 months, you put 120 days, right? The password minimum days, and basically what this is how long must you have this password before you can change it, right? And this just means that if you create the password today and you change this to 7 days, you have to wait 7 days until you can change, you are allowed to change your password. All this means right now is 0 days, so you can make that as you will. My recommendation is to have the maximum password days to 120. It means every 4 months you change it, and then have minimum days of keeping your password for 15 days, which is pretty reasonable. And then your password warning age, basically it just gives you when should I notify you that you need to change your password. And that's really, you know, this is really what that means, before the time it expires. So for example, let's say you have 120 days and you want to give somebody 15-day warning. So all you do is just you type in 15 days and it will tell you 15 days before you have to change your password, hey, go change your password, knucklehead. And that's what you'll end up doing. So pretty straightforward. You can change this and make the parameters as you will. My recommendation is 120 days, 15 days, 15 days. All right. Exit. Now we're gonna go ahead and configure rkhunter. Now rkhunter, I'm not gonna run the commands. I'm gonna show you the commands, and I'm gonna show you a cron job. And that is just so that you will see how you would do certain things. So rkhunter update is you're going to upgrade the software. That's all that is. It'll go through and pull just to find out what the latest software package is. At the same time, you can also do that with a sudo app update and sudo app upgrade. So just keep that in mind. You also, if you want to, when you're going to want to upgrade the database, and basically all the signatures that are out there, it gets updated on a regular basis. So you do want to do this frequently. So pro pupd is going to upgrade the database. Okay, and then in order to run the rkhunter to perform the checks on your system, you're going to run rkhunter -- check and then enter. Okay, so try that out on your system. See what all the information comes out on. It'll let you know if there's something on there, if there's any warnings or such, and then you can take appropriate actions from there. Now, what I like to do is create a cron job and let this thing run every day, and just kind of give me an idea of what's going on my system. So for that, we're going to create a file, and that file is going to do, it's going to be etc. It's going to be in cron daily because I wanted to do it on a daily basis. So daily, and I'm going to name the file rkhunter, okay, .sh, because this is script, right? We're going to begin the script with pound exclamation point bash bin sh, and we're going to add the following lines. User, and what this is, just to kind of give you a brief idea, is I'm telling the system, please run this command, but I have to tell the system exactly where the command is located, rkhunter, and then the variation or the option for the command that I want it to run. So version check, it's going to check for the version. And again, you have to, in every line, you have to tell it exactly where where the command is. rkhunter -- update. Oops. Local bin rkhunter -- cron job, and then what we're doing is report warnings, right? I mean, because honestly, we don't need to see all the stuff that's already good. That's not really important to us. We know it's good, and there's no need to report on that. So we're just going to want to show all the warnings that come up. And you can also add here, just for good measure, local forward bin forward rkhunter, and then upgrade the database, right? Because that's, you want to do that on a regular basis. PUD. All right, so that's basically it, and then we're going to go ahead and close it. You want to leave it open, and then we're going to save it, Control X, Control Y, and then yeah, done. So that's pretty much done. Now what we want to do now is, the file is just a file, it is not an executable, so we are going to make it an executable. We're going to change mod 755. Listen, I would like to explain this, but it's going to take a little while to explain what these are. All I'm really doing is having it being read and executed. So for more information on this, please look at permissions on Ubuntu, or permissions on Linux in general, and you'll get a better idea on exactly what I'm talking about as far as executing files and reading, writing, and the like. So all we're doing right now is we are going to make it executable, and that's what this command does. Okay, done. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and protect our system from buffer underflows, and protect our systems from network attacks. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and configure the file sudo nano, right, etc, and then we're going to go ahead and jump into sysctl.conf first, and this is just going to do we're just going to go first and do protection against buffer underflows. We're going to go all the way down. We're not even going to deal with anything on the top, and we're going to add a line, and that line is, first we're going to comment and just kind of write exactly what the command is going to do, and that is turn on exec shield. Okay, and the line is going to be kernel random, no, I'm sorry, randomize dot underscore va underscore space equals 1. So kernel randomize underscore space underscore va underscore space equals 1. Basically, it's just we want the memory to be randomized, and what location information is stored in memory, we want that to be randomized. So once we do that, we're gonna go ahead and save it, and then we're gonna reload sysctl. All right, sudo sysctl -p will restart the system. And now you see that kernel randomize underscore va space is enabled. It just lets you know. Now the second thing we are going to do is we're going to configure the systemctl network security configuration file. In order to do that, we're going to go into sudo nano if I can spell etc sysd, right? That's the file, and then 10 network-security.conf file. Okay. Now I went ahead before I was recording, and I already configured this. So all I'm really going to do is go over this with you. So right now, what you're going to see is the turn on source addressing verification in all interface to prevent spoofing. That was already enabled, so you didn't really have to mess with that. The second part, turn on sync flooding protection, that was already enabled, so you really don't have to mess with that either. Just leave it as is. Now, the other pieces we added. So ignore ICMP broadcast requests. So every time there's a ping request out and there's a broadcast, the system is not going to answer the call. It's just going to ignore it. Okay. Disable source packet routing. We're not a router. We're a server, so we're going to disable this by default. It's enabled, so all we're doing is we're disabling being a router, and for all intents and purposes. We're going to ignore redirects, sending redirects. We're going to go ahead and configure sync attacks so that we are not being attacked by sync sync commands. And basically, this is within the TCP/IP session. There's sync, there's acknowledgement, and there's a fin. So sometimes people just send a packet and they're just constantly sending a SYN packet, and all you're doing is wasting resources in order to acknowledge these packets and trying to send a response back. So what this does, it prevents that from happening. So, and we're just giving you thresholds so that it's not constantly turning on to your system. Okay. The other part of this is logging Martians, and so for all intents and purposes, what are Martians? Basically, they're unroutable source addresses, and those unroutable source addresses are the 10.0.0.0, the 127.0.0, 224, 240, colon 128, colon 96, colon 128. Those are the IPv6 addresses, and all this is doing is just logging them. It's not doing anything other than that, and then it's just logging any it's going to ignore bogus errors, and it's going to log them, and that's basically all we're going to do there. We're going to ignore ICMP redirects for pinging, and then we're also going to come down here and ignore directed pings. And that's once we do that, we're saving ourselves and we're configuring ourselves to prevent a lot of network attacks, especially internal network attacks that can be performed by people that are already inside the system, right? Since I already did that, take a look at it. I'm gonna have this in the show notes so you can just cut and paste it into your system, and this is a good guide to just kind of get that ball rolling. So once we're done with that, we're going to go ahead and restart the service. For that, we're going to do sudo service pro cps, and we're going to do is start, and done. So now all of these are enabled and are going to be working on the system. Now we're going to go ahead and prevent IP spoofing. So here we go again with the editing of the file, right? I mean, can't escape it. Good news is we're almost done, so you know, can't beat that bad, right? Host.conf file, we're going to edit that. Now we're going to add a couple of lines here. The only line we're going to edit is no spoof on. Oop. If I can learn to spell, it will work. Too many O's. Boom. No spoof on. That's all we're going to add. It's literally, it's that simple. Now, you can change the order. You can change the order to the host file up here and then the bind file. That's fine if you want to add a certain host to your host file. Either way is up to you. I would prefer just leave it the host file and then go and check bind, and bind is just checking your DNS entry, so it's no big deal. And then yes, we're gonna save it, and done. That's all we had to do. Next, we are going to configure fail to ban and deny host. And this is pretty easy. So here we go with the editing of files, right? First thing we're going to do is we're going to copy a file so that we can edit it. And how do I explain this? There's already a configuration file out there that you can use and that you're going to copy in order to be the baseline for what you're going to do. Okay, so we're going to copy the jail.conf, right? And we are going to copy it into etc fail to ban, and the file name we're going to want to use is jail.local. Okay, once we do that, guess what we're going to do? We're going to edit the file. Shocker, right? So sudo nano etc, and then this is the file that we just created. All right. So a couple of things that I'm going to point out really quickly is this ignore IP. So all this is saying is it is going to ignore, and it's not going to run on the local interface. Fail to ban will not run on the local interface, and that's it. Now you can add, if you have trusted networks, for example, like within your data center, and you have trusted networks that you don't want to be messed with, or you don't want fail to ban to initiate on, in the event that you have to troubleshoot or for whatever reason, this is where you add it. And all you have to do is is type in ignore IP equals and then the network. that you want to ignore. Let's say you want to ignore your admin network. You don't want it to ban anybody on the admin network. Then you add that network on here as well. Okay, but for right now, in order for paranoia's sake, I'm gonna leave it just for the local network, right? The ban time and number of seconds, I like to go a little overboard with this to 3600 seconds. You can change it to whatever suits you, maybe an hour, um, uh, maybe a day, whatever might suit you is perfectly fine. But my norm was 3600, and that's what I recommend. So a host is banned if it generates max retries during the last find time seconds, right? So find time seconds is the amount of time where the maximum retries are done. So let's say um, you enter the password a couple of times, but you stop before the max retries. This find time is executed. You can leave that at the default. I normally do. It's not a huge deal. And now the max retries. How many times is the individual going to try to enter the password before he gets banned? 5, I think it's a reasonable number, the default. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that. 4 is typical, but 3 I think is too low. So I would recommend somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 or 5. So we're done with this. We're gonna go exit, save, done. Okay. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and configure the deny host. So because failed to ban, we are already done, and we don't have to worry about that. Okay. Sudo nano uh, etc hosts. We're gonna start with hosts allowed. You kind of want to have all the hosts that you want allowed onto your system to be allowed. Um, as far as denying hosts, so you never want to deny your local interface, right? Because that would suck, especially if you're trying to do testing. Deny hosts, maybe you have systems that you're going to use that are always going to have the same IP address, like a router that you always use as a jump system. You might want to put that in here. So let's say that my router is 172.16.200.1, and that's the host that I want never to get denied, right? So you're gonna have that on here. So all that says is, listen, this host, no matter what, we're not gonna run deny host on. That's it. That's all that is. So we're gonna exit and save and done. Now we're gonna go ahead and configure the conf file, the configuration file. So sudo nano -c /etc hosts, right? And deny host, I'm sorry, denyhost.conf. We're going to go in here, and the bottom line is all we're really going to be touching on is this line right here, to purge deny. Now, I like to go overboard. I deny people for an entire year. That may not be your style, so just 4 months, a week is typically good. But I like to go overboard. And then once you set that, the threshold here, the purge threshold, is I set this to 3. And basically all this means is when this is set, if an individual it gets banned 3 or more times, they will never come off the list. Okay, that's all that really means. And then the services that are being blocked. By default, SSHD is the only one that is being blocked, but you can deny it for all hosts or for all services on here, HTTP, HTTPS, DNS, whatever it is, you can deny that. So up here you see it as block services all. Here it's just SSH D. For your internal system, SSHD is fine. No big deal. And once that's done, we're done, and we exit, save, and then exit, and we're done. Okay. So next, we're going to configure the firewall, and this is going to be pretty quick. So sudo UFW, and the only thing that we're going to allow in is, you guessed it, SSH/TCP. All right. Once we enable it, that's it, and then we're going to enable the firewall. And literally, that's the only thing we're going to do. Now, we are going to touch based on this again when we add different services. So, for example, if you have your DNS or your DHCP, for DNS, you're going to put TCP and UDP port 53. For DHCP, you're going to put UDP port 66, 67, and 68, if I recall that correctly. And then if you're going to have like NTP, you're going to have allow port TCP and UDP port 1, 2, 3, right? So for right now, all we want to allow in is SSH by default, so you're able to access it. That's all that is. Now, all outgoing traffic is allowed by default, so you don't need to worry about that. Okay, so that's done. Now we can finish off our series, or finish off this video by adding or hardening the SSH conf directory. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to create the we are going to create a key, or we're going to generate a key. So sudo SSH keygen TRSA, and then the bit. So T is the type, so we're going to RSA is the type, and then the bit that we're going to use is 4096. The default is 2048. This is just going to make it a beefy key. That's all this basically means. I'm not going to enter a passphrase on this. When we get into authenticating with keys, we're going to add pins and stuff like that. But for right now, we're going to leave this key just the way it is with no password. Okay. So now we're going to configure the SSH conf file. So sudo nano. I know. It's getting you. It's driving you nuts. SSH is the directory, and SSH underscore conf. Right. Go in there, and we're just gonna do a couple of things. Oh, I think I got that wrong. Hold on. sshd.conf. I apologize. There we go. So you can have a listening address. If you have multiple addresses, this is where you would change that to which one you want it to listen on. We're going to go here, and it says login grace time. We're going to leave it as default. That's fine. Permit root login. That's a damn no. Not a no, but a hails no. Do not allow the root to log in at all whatsoever. Period. Right? Strict modes, yes, that's fine. RSA authentication, yes. Now, when we do keys, these will change, right? So come down here a little bit. Password authentication. Now, here we go. We're not going to forward X11 forwarding. This doesn't have a GUI interface, so there's no need to be doing this. So we're not going to allow it on here. Okay, so we're just going to take that off by default. We're also going to have. We're going to make one more change that I think is important, and that is the max tries you can authenticate on. Now, all this is, I know this is security on top of security, but this is what this video series is all about anyway, so that's what we're going to do. Max tries is 3. Okay, the maximum number of tries you can get in. Max sessions. Max sessions. How many sessions, SSH sessions, do you want to have? If you have a small enterprise, you don't need more than 5. If it's just you and maybe a handful of people, 5 sessions is fine. There's not going to be more than 5 people logging into this SSHing to this machine. However, if you have more people, this might want to be adjusted to the number of people that you think should have access at the same time to this system. All right. And then the next thing we're going to do is come down here and enable the banner. I like the banner. It just lets people know, look, don't be messing around with my stuff. All right. So exit. We're going to save changes. Done. And then what we're going to do is we're going to edit the banner, and then we're going to reload SSH. Okay. So sudo nano etc issue.net. Now I already configured this, so this is a good banner to have, and basically all it's saying is warning, you are consenting to being monitored, and this computer is property of your property, whatever your name is, your organization, and is only accessed by you or your organization, and unauthorized tampering of this system is strictly prohibited, basically, and is subject to criminal prosecution, which by the way by law it is. Okay. And all communications on this system are being monitored, and it's used for law enforcement or your own personal purposes, and there's no expectation of privacy to any communication or information on the system. And that's basically all it's saying. It's just a nice banner, let someone know, stop dicking around with your system. If they do, these are the consequences. All right, so exit. Done, and I'll have this in the show notes, so don't worry about it. So now sudo service sshd restart, and that's all we're doing, and done, folks. This is the down and dirty. It doesn't encompass everything. I just wanted to show you how to do a basic hardening. The next video we're going to talk a little bit more about other pieces that we need to harden the system. But for right now, these are just the basics. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned a lot from it. If you liked the video, please click like. If you didn't like, please click dislike. And then if you have any comments to help us out with this video, please let us know in the comments below. And thank you so much for viewing. I hope this was informative for you, and I hope you have a blessed and great day. All right, bye.